Hey, good morning, Calvary Southbury, or it's probably afternoon by the time that you get this. I know it's been quite some time since I've put together a video and sent one out. I hope to do more of them as we work our way through the fast. And just in case you didn't know, we are in a fast, a 4 for 40, we call it. There's a lot of information on it at calvarysouthbury.info. If you go there, you can pick up stuff on the fast. And I have a fire going behind me. See, it's like a fireside chat. There we go. Hey, but by this time in the fast, the first week, you should have written down two things that you are putting off, and then two things that you're putting on. That's makes for 40 days. And I can't stress enough that you have these four items just written down. And of course, why? Why do I need to write them down? Because even at this early stage in the fast, you're going to be tested and you're going to be tempted to not do what you've already prayed about doing. In fact, by the first week, and I'm sure a lot of you have already seen this, you have questions about whether or not it even really matters about the things that I'm putting off. Okay, let me just tell you right off. That's either your flesh because it hates when we deny it, or it's the enemy already at work trying to stop you as you're just beginning. Here's what we need to do. We need to push through with the knowledge that it's obviously making a difference, or I wouldn't be tempted to give up this already, what I don't think really matters. Look, we have a daily reading, some housekeeping stuff. We have a daily reading for the fast. It can be found at calvarysouthbury.info. And they're just small readings. So you might have a Bible plan already. These are kind of small. You could go through them quite quickly, or you could use them for like your devotion and meditate upon these things. But what you'll find is when we're going to have hard copies of these at the church as well. If you go to the cafe, you'll find some of these. What you're going to find is I'm going to base Sunday morning's messages off of the readings that we've done in the previous week. So there'll be some section of that. So right now we're going through a little bit of the New Testament in John 14, but then as well in Ezra. And so I'm probably going to base, or I will be basing Sunday's message off of Ezra. And it'll be great just kind of going through the scriptures together during the fast, and we'll kind of be on the same page as far as that goes. And we also are having the prayer course that we're running tonight. It starts, and it's going to be running the entire length of the fast and then 2 weeks after. And so that's just great. Like if we're making space for Jesus and we want to actually draw near to him, we need to learn how to pray even more effectively, or even how to pray even more consistently. Well, I was reading the account of the feeding of the 5,000. I'm doing a bunch of different readings, but I was reading the account of the 5,000 the other day, and I think it's applicable to all of us. We've been doing this, we're in the process of doing this 40-day fast, and we're doing it because we desire more of Jesus, and it's awesome to go to church and be around others who are following him and all, but we know that there's more of him than we're currently experiencing, and we know that there's more of him that he desires for us to enter in. And so for 40 days, that's what we're seeking to do. We're seeking to press into him more. And so we've taken off two things in order to create space in our already maxed out lives for pressing into him. But here's what we don't want to do. Just because the fast is going to get hard, and just because we're going to be tested, we don't want to give up and end up missing what God has for us individually as well as corporately. And there's going to be that temptation. So let me just read the account of the feeding of the 5,000. Jesus told his disciples, let's come aside by yourselves to a deserted place and rest for a while. So get some R&R with Jesus. Okay, but the multitudes, it says, this is in Mark 6, but the multitudes saw them departing, and many knew him, and they ran on foot from the cities, and they arrived at this place before Jesus got there. Okay, moving on. And it says, when the day was now far spent, there's all this multitude around, the disciples came to Jesus and said, this is a deserted place and the hour is already late. Send them away that they may go into the surrounding country and villages and buy for themselves bread, for they have nothing to eat. And then Jesus said to them, you give them something to eat. And then they said, well, shall we go and buy 200 denarii worth of bread and give them something to eat? And Jesus said, how many loaves do you have among you? Go and see. And when they found out, they said 5 and 2 fish. And he commanded them to make them all sit down in groups. And so they sat down in ranks, in hundreds and in 50s. And when he had taken the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, he looked up into heaven, he blessed them and broke them, the loaves, and gave them to the disciples to set before them. And the 2 fish he divided among them all. So when they ate and were filled, and then they took up 12 basketfuls full of the fragments of fish, of the bread and the fish. Now these who had eaten the loaves were about 5,000 men. So just a huge amount of people, 5,000, 15,000 people, men, if you count women and children, over 15,000 people. The disciples, Jesus said, you give them something to eat. And the disciples said, well, we have 5 loaves and 2 fish. And some of the other accounts of this, it's recorded in all 4 Gospels, say, but what's that among so many? In other words, these things are just so small, they don't amount to anything. So what's that when looking at what it is that we need to accomplish? And some of you, that's exactly what you've been saying about the 2 things that you're taking off. So what is this in light of all it is that I want to accomplish? And what I would say to you, it's huge when you get it into Jesus's hands. Look, the disciples were in a spot where they just wanted to get away with Jesus. They were supposed to get quiet and rest. They were supposed to decompress. It turned out to be nothing like the sort. In fact, all their plans went out the windows as this massive crowd showed up, and Jesus is like, let's minister to them. And then at the end of the day, they're all hungry. And the disciples had no supplies. And they're just like, we want some rest. And Jesus said that we need it too. But instead, the crowd just grows larger and larger and larger than any crowd we had to deal with before. We want to be alone with Jesus, and it can happen with us too, right? We just want to be alone with Jesus. But then all of a sudden, everything explodes all around us. That ever happen to you? That's good. Just don't explode with it. Jesus is doing something in those times, and you don't want to miss out on it. You don't want to be like the disciples saying, send it away, just get it out of here. I just wanted to fast and meet with you alone, and I thought it would be easier. It's not going to be easier. You should be challenged, but here's what you want to do. You want to just keep on keeping on. Look, you wrote down what it was that you were going to take off and what it is that you're taking on. Keep pressing into him. The disciples pressed through, and when they did, what did they get to see? Well, they saw this whole multitude fed, right? But then at the end of it all, they had these 12 basketfuls of leftovers. So think about that, what they had. Each disciple had a basketful for themselves to look at and to ponder and go, this is the provision and this is the movement of God. Think about that. Each disciple just staring at the basketful of bread and fish and thinking, and I wanted to send them away. If I would have bailed, if Jesus would have listened to me, I would have missed out on one of the greatest miracles of all time. Greatest miracles recorded in the Bible. In fact, it's recorded in all 4 Gospels, one of the only few miracles. Look, don't bail out. You might think it's something small. You entrust it to Jesus. You press through with the 40 and just watch what Jesus is going to do with it. Again, guys, we have a prayer course that starts this Thursday, today at 7. It's going to help us to learn how to pray more effectively, and how to pray even differently. Do yourself a favor and come out for it. Love you guys. It's great to be in this journey with you all.